Chapter 7. A Few Loose Ends. I spent the next few weeks adding to our farm. Link started out by bringing home cuckoos and a rooster. Then I got 2 milk cows, a pig, and 4 sheep. Link surprised me when he came home one day with a beautiful black stallion. Since we had a special connection with the royal family, the king himself had the horse bred especially for us. Wait, shouldn't that be Malin's job? We decided that since the stallion, whom we named Midnight Star, was such a strong horse, we were going to breed him with Epona. We bred them for the first time just before their meeting seating was to end. It was perfect timing. I only had 7 more months until I was to give birth. The colt would be born not too long after I was to have my firstborn. I knew each colt that was born would be strong and healthy, perfect for each child that Link and I were going to have. After we got all the animals that we needed, I started a garden. I was going to grow a lot of food that we were going to eat, though some of the meals and fruits were provided to us by the king. Because of course it fucking was. I grew most of the vegetables that were going to be used for meals. Each and every day I would tend to my garden. It was my pride and joy, next to being pregnant. Keeping it up was tough, but fun. And that is why I am going to do more than one chapter this week, because that was literally it. Chapter 8. The Separation. One day I was visiting with Princess Zelda at the castle when she got word from her father that a war had started with one of our allied lands. The king decided to send in some of his knights, and one of the legions he was sending was Link's. My face turned white as a sheet. I knew that affairs like these could keep the men away for months. Since he was the captain of his legion, he had to go. When Princess Zelda saw how upset I was, she tried to comfort me, but I couldn't help but think that Link might miss the birth of our first child. You self-centered bitch! When I explained my concerns to her, she told me that in the event that I was to give birth before Link was to return home, her father would have him brought home. After she told me that, I started to feel a little better, but it was the separation that was bothering me. I knew that spending such a great amount of time apart would be hard. I didn't want to get lonely. We had been together for 5 months and married for 2, and never spent much of that time apart. Would this long separation period stress me out? I thought to myself. When I got home, I was mopey. I knew Link would have to leave soon, and then I was going to miss him. I wished that he did not have to leave. When he came home, he delivered the bad news. He told me that he was going to have to leave in the morning. As I looked into his eyes, tears began to stream down my face. I did not know how I was going to cope with the separation. I went into his arms and cried in his chest. Link gently rocked me in his arms as I cried. He told me that he would be home as soon as the war was over. He also said that he would write as often as possible, though the one thing that scared me was that something would happen to him and he would not return home to me. I expressed my concerns to him. "I do not want our baby to grow up without a father," I said, choking in between tears. "Do you remember the stories of my battle with Ganondorf?" Link asked. I nodded yes. "I survived that. I'm standing here as living proof. And a war cannot be worse than battling the King of Evil himself. I'm a survivor. I will survive." With those words, I looked deeply into his eyes and saw the determination in them. "Jenna, my love, I will return to you. Love will guide me back," he said as his eyes flickered with love, and I knew that he meant what he said. I took his hand and brushed away his tears. Then he bent his head down and kissed me. A mix of emotions raced through my mind, some sad, some happy, some with fear. I felt like the world was crashing down on me, like all the bad things were happening at once, though as I looked into his eyes I could tell within my own heart love will bring him back to me. Just then Navi came into the room and saw that I was crying. She flew over to me concerned.
"Jen, Link, where's Lily?"
"Oh, and are you okay?" I looked at the blue fairy and tears begun to stream down my face again. "A war has started in one of our allied lands, and the king has decided to send in knights. Link's Legion is one of them. I begun to choke on my tears as Link held me tightly. Oh, honey, Oh, wait. Okay, this is supposed to be Navi's line, but I honestly couldn't tell who was supposed to be speaking because she didn't add dialogue tags in this long paragraph. Oh, honey, I'm sorry. That's bad news, but you remember Ganondorf, right? I nodded yes. Well, what he put Link through was worse than this, and he's still here. He loves you and will come back to us. He's going to be a father, and that will not keep him away for long. Navi flew in front of me, and her blue aura grew brighter. Her aura was always calming. I looked into Link's eyes. His eyes were as beautiful and as sexy as ever, still like deep blue pools of water. I laid against his chest and enjoyed what time we had left. I did not know how long it was going to be before I was going to see him again. I thought to myself, he loves me. Love will guide him back to me. And that's all I need to remember. Yeah, you notice how she seems to be focusing more on how this affects her and not how it affects Link? Or how it will affect her child? Stress, while pregnant, is not a healthy thing. Oh, and in case you're wondering how long she has to wait for Link to come back, well, Chapter 9, The Reunion. Some time had passed since Link had left with the King's Knights. He kept in touch via letters by carrier pigeon. In one of his last letters, he said that there was a talk of a peace treaty, and if that was to happen, the war would end and he would be coming home. To pass the time, I either spent my time at the castle with Zelda or in Kokiri village with Saria. And when it was too much to bear, I spent those days in my garden or tending my farm. Most of the time passed easily, but there were days when I really missed him, and I was always awaiting for his next letter. Then one day, about 4 or 5 months later, a message came in from Link that the peace treaty had passed. The war was over, and he would be coming home soon. I started to cry tears of happiness. Link was finally coming home. I had missed him so much. My husband was returning to me like he said, and there was nothing more important than that. Well, what do you know? She actually fucking admits it. Lily and Navi had come to make their routine check on me. When they came, I told them the good news. They were happy to hear that Link was coming home. I was glad that Lily and Navi were here. While I am confused as to why Navi didn't go with Link into a combat scenario like, oh, I don't know, she did in the fucking games. They always made things brighter and even helped the time go by faster. Even on the days when I got emotional from missing Link, they helped the sadness go away. Though it was hard sleeping alone, waking up and finding Link's side of the bed empty. Yeah. More evidence that this wasn't actually a dream because, surprise, surprise, that's what would have happened every time Jenna woke up from one of these wet dreams. But, again, I don't think they were actually wet dreams in the first place. Or at least if they were, she's not recounting them. This shit I'm pretty sure she just made up. At least I had Lily and Navi to help me through it. I was told that it was going to be about a week before the knights were to return to Hyrule. I could hardly wait. It was summer. I was now 9 months pregnant and to give birth soon. I did not want Link to miss the birth of our first baby. The week seemed to go by quickly, and the day Link was to come home drew near. I spent the last few days with Princess Zelda preparing a welcome home celebration for our men returning home. Everyone in Hyrule attended to welcome home our men. The crowd was huge. Everyone had gathered into the Hyrule market. I had even seen other wives waiting for their husbands. I had a hard time getting around. My stomach was big, and when the baby kicked, it took it out of me. So moving through the crowd was difficult. As the knights begun to walk through the marketplace, I finally found a spot where I could see and awaited for Link. I watched as different legions went through, none of them Link's. I felt his presence as I telepathically called to him. "Yes, my love, I will be there soon. I miss you too," he said to me in my mind. Then, when the last legion came through, I spotted my husband at the lead. My face grew bright.
You keep using the word. I do not think it means what you think it means.
As I called out to him. As he passed by, he smiled at me. At that moment I began to cry. I was so happy he was finally returning home. I could not wait to be in his arms again. It had been such a long time, and I wanted to run to him and give him a hug. But I had some patience, so I tried to wait.
Oh, wait, you serious? Let me laugh even harder.
The king was at the other end of the market. He welcomed home each of the knights as they passed by. Some even got rewards for their bravery. I watched from the street as the king welcomed home Link's legion. There was a long pause, and then the king called Link over to him. I watched to see if he was awarded anything. There was a silence as the king produced a small red box. I moved in to get a closer look. When I got to the bottom of the stairs leading to the platform Link was on, the king noticed me and told me to join them. "Since you are this brave man's wife, you may join him up here." As my eyes darted around the market, I noticed all eyes were on me. I got nervous, and the king noticed that. "Come, daughter, join your husband up here. Commentate his bravery in the field of battle." My eyes darted around once, then I slowly made my way up the wooden stairs and to the platform where Link and the king were. At one point I almost tumbled, but the king caught me and helped me the rest of the way up. Then I took my place at Link's side. "This brave soldier went above and beyond the call of duty in the field of battle. He risked his own life to save his men. For that I award this brave man, Link, the Triforce of Valor." The king opened the box and held up a pin with a red bird behind the Triforce symbol. In one, the bird's claws was a bundle of arrows, and the other was a lightning bolt. A small purple heart sat in the center of the Triforce symbol, because of course you'd fucking rip off the purple heart. You have no idea why people get those, do you? The king took the pin and placed it on Link's uniform. Then a loud cheering came from the crowd as Link turned to look over everyone.
Phrasing?
He waved a couple of times, then turned his attention to me. He took me into his arms and we kissed. More cheering came from as we embraced. Then I looked into his eyes and a tear ran down my cheek. "I miss you so much. I'm so glad that you're finally home," I said softly. Then I placed a hand on my belly. "Our baby is going to be born soon. I was told any day now." I took his hand and placed it on my stomach. "Do you feel the baby kicking?" I asked sweetly. After a minute, he looked back at me and smiled. Yes, I can." Now at that moment his eyes seemed to glow as happiness filled into them, and I knew that he was happy to be home. He took me into his arms again and held me close. I noticed out of the corner of my eye that the king was smiling. He knew we were very happy together. Since Zelda had not yet married, he at least had one daughter that wed. That made the king happy. Since we wed, he had another heir to the throne. Wait, what? In the event that Princess Zelda does not take the throne, Link is next in line. Then I would become queen. The king knew he was not getting any younger, but he felt at ease knowing there was another to be able to take the throne in the event Zelda does not. Though this did not change Link and I, but we had to groom ourselves in the event that Link would become king and I queen. I loved the king. He had become like a father to me. But I was in no hurry to become queen, though I knew that day may eventually come. No, seriously, where is this Lady Macbeth shit coming from? Seriously, this issue never comes up again in the story, and it was never brought up before, so where did this ego trip come from? I swear, the real Jenna must have had, no social interaction whatsoever at this point. You think they would make that part of the plot of the story, but wasted opportunity. As Link and I walked through the streets, the crowd cheered as we passed by. Link was very beloved by the people of Hyrule. Everyone in Hyrule owed Link his or her life. He saved them all. But now they were glad that Link had taken a wife. And when our baby was born, everyone in Hyrule will want to bless the baby of the hero of time, another to carry in his/her father's legend. When we arrived back home, all of the Kokiri were there to greet us along with our fairies, Lily and Navi.
"You're finally home, Link. I missed you,"
Navi squealed as she flew over to him.
"You were really missed."
As she flew around him, her blue aura brightened. I missed you too, Navi, Link said as he smiled at her.
Jen and I really missed you.
Lily said as she flew in front of me. Link! Hey, Link! A girl voice called from behind the crowd. Then Saria came running through the crowd up to him. I missed you a lot too, Link. How are you? Saria said as her eyes lit up at the sight of him. We're so glad you're home. Jenna spent a lot of time with us while you were away. Just then something caught her eye. What is that on your uniform? Saria asked as she gently fingered the pin on Link's uniform.
Phrasing.
It's called the Triforce of Valor. The king awarded this to me for my bravery in the field of battle, Link said with pride. A wow came from the crowd as Link showed everyone. Oh, Link, that is so wonderful. You must be so proud of him, Saria said as she looked at me. Yes, I am, but I'm just glad to have him home again, I said, blushing. Then we had a small celebration to celebrate Link's return home. We had a small feast. Then we danced and drank. Oh my God, you are a terrible mother. Then around midnight, everyone went home, and Link and I were left alone. We told Lily and Navi that we were going to the pond out back to have a swim. The night air was warm, perfect for swimming. We went into our special little pond. Once there, we took off our clothes and went into the cool water. We splashed around and played around in the water for a little while. Then I looked into Link's eyes. They were glowing under the moonlight. I went into his arms, felt his body against mine. Then he gently pressed his lips on mine and kissing me deeply. It had been such a long time since we kissed like this. We kissed even deeper, our tongues finding their ways into each other's mouths. I felt his hands caressing my body, felt the connection between us growing stronger. I ran my hands down his back as he moved his lips to my neck. I felt his heart beginning to beat faster, hearing his thoughts in my mind. I wanted him so bad. Wanted to feel him. It had been such a long time since we made love. I whispered in his ear that I wanted him, that I wanted to feel him. And I heard him in my mind, heard him say he wanted me too. I felt the heat of our bodies, felt his hands touching me, felt them caressing my body. I started to breathe faster as my heart was beating in unison with his. Then I felt him quivering against me.
You keep using the word. I don't think it means what you think it means.
As he slowly penetrated my awaiting body, the intensity of it raced through my body, raced through my bones. It had been a long time since I felt this feeling. As we made love, I felt our connection become full. I felt as if our bodies merged. We became one, even more so when we both came to a full climax. I screamed out his name as I felt him release his essence deep inside me. Then I put my lips to his long, sexy pointed ear and whispered words of passion to him before sweetly licking and nibbling on it. I heard him moan softly as I caressed his ear with my lips and his body with my hands. I was so glad to finally be in his arms again, to be able to feel him. I had longed for this day, longed to make love to him. Now my dreams had come true. He was finally home. And the nail in the "this was all a dream" idea coffin has finally been nailed shut. Tune in next week where Link and Jenna's first child will be born. And it will be exactly what you would expect it to be by this point.